Hello summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides OP Korean builds video. My name is Kellen and today I'll be covering all of the latest and most OP builds that have been rising in popularity in Korean solo queue. A bunch of you guys have been asking for this video for patch 9.20 and we're finally here to deliver it. There have been a lot of balance changes and reworks this patch which have shaken up the meta in Korea, and we can't wait to share with you what we have in store. Some of the builds in this video you might even be surprised that they made the list, so make sure to stay till the very end. Also guys, today's question of the day is who is your favorite pro player at the World Championships and why? Mine is Damwon Gaming's top laner Nuguri because he's mechanically insane and comes up with some of the wackiest builds. In fact, a ton of the builds that we'll mention today are originally from him, so stay tuned for that. But before we get started, I want you to click the link below and check out our website ProGuides.com. ProGuides is the best proven way to improve at League of Legends, and we post guide videos like this one every single day. We've been doing a lot more advanced content recently, and I'm sure you won't regret signing up. Also guys, we have an effective coaching feature which lets you play with and get coached by a pro. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on this because your friends will be stunned at how much better you got at the game. Now with that being said, let's jump right into the video. Let's start with the top lane. Now, the first OP Korean build that we'll mention in today's video is going to be for Vlad. This build was first innovated by Damwon Gaming's top laner Nuguri, who famously was known for using wacky yet extremely overpowered builds. In fact, he's actually the first player to rush Kindle Gem and Fiendish Codex on Vlad, while also starting Doran's Ring plus the cooldown stat tree rune. In 920, Nuguri is at it again, and this time you see him with another created build for Vlad, which is even more powerful than the first one that he previously invented. First, you want to take Kleptomancy, Boots, Minion Dematerializer, and Cosmic Insight, then Domination for Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. And of course, for the free stat tree, you'll take Cooldown, Adaptive Damage, then the HP rune. Here, however, is the twist. For items, you'll rush a Cull, then a Nomad's Medallion. Yep, you heard that right. You're looking to build this support item instead of the usual Fiendish Codex because it's much more efficient to grant 10% CDR, while also getting that juicy gold per second and movement speed. Combine the gold generation with your Klepto, and you'll be spiking to your full build in no time. For your final build, you want a Spellbinder, Aeonian Boots, Deathcap, Void Staff, Zanyas, and a Banshees. This build will guarantee that you can exit the laning phase with a 1k gold lead by only farming and auto-attacking your opponent. Try it out guys, it's really strong and will likely be hard nerfed soon because he's been spamming it during the World Championships. Next up, we have another build for the top lane, which is Camille. Although Camille isn't super popular in most parts of the world, she's actually a favorite in Korea, and top laners hold a very high presence over there for her. For this patch, there's a new build that you can use for Camille which has been seeing more play, and it involves demolishing your opponent in the 1v1. For the runes, you can go whatever you want, but I highly recommend Conqueror with Overheal, then Bloodline, and Coup de Grace followed by Inspiration for Time Warp Tonic and Biscuits. Already you can see the uniqueness of this build with some weird rune choices like Overheal, but don't knock it until you try it. This, however, is where things get spicy. For items, you want the standard Trinity Force into Ravenous Hydra, then Spear of Sojin into Mercs, Sterix, and a GA. Spear of Sojin is insanely powerful on Camille, and a lot of players don't realize how disgustingly OP it is. Once you use your ultimate, every single one of your auto attacks will do 15 plus 8% of the target's current HP as bonus damage. Then you have the 80% bonus attack speed from your E, 50% bonus attack speed from your spear, Earth mode cooldown reset from the spear, extra true damage, healing from Conqueror, double auto attack resets, and true damage with your Qs. Lastly, the life steal from Ravenous Hydra, Legend Bloodline, and Overheal. Listen, I'm an avid Camille player myself, and the one piece of advice I can give you is stop trying to win lane. Camille will heavily outscale most top laners, so your goal during the laning phase should be to break even and stay in lane for longer periods of time with your Corrupting Potion and your Biscuits. If you fall behind early, then you'll be one of the most useless champions in the game, so don't take that risk. Finally, for the top lane, we once again have Jace. And it's true, the Mastermind Nuguri comes back with another innovative Jace build that we all love to play against, Psych. For runes, you'll take Klepto, Boots, Biscuits, and Time Warp Tonic, and Domination for Taste of Blood and Relentless Hunter this time. For items, you'll start a Cull, then rush a Black Cleaver into Essence Reaver and Ninja Tabbies, followed by Maw, Last Whisper, and GA. Of the three builds we've mentioned for top lane, this is by far the most annoying because Jace is the best laner of the three. Whenever you're playing a champion who gets outranged by Jace, it's so tilting to press that tab button and see his inventory filled with consumables and sacks of gold. By the time the laning phase ends, he'll have a full item lead on you without even doing anything. It doesn't even feel like he beat you in lane, yet he's already ahead by a mile. Lastly, for the top lane, we have Garen. Now, Garen did receive a rework this patch, and the best builds are still being discovered, but there's one build which has seen more play. For runes, you'll take Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, then Resolve secondary for Bone Plating and Overgrowth. For items, you'll want Trinity Force into Berserker Greaves, Sterak's, Wit's End, GA, and finish off with Aranduin's. Being able to build up that attack speed and have it scale with your ease ticks is super useful for 1v1 laning, and now Garen can fight tanks much easier with Conqueror and his new ultimate. Give this one a try, guys, but remember, there will likely be a more optimized build next week because his rework is still being tested. And here's a quick recap for all of the builds that we mentioned for top lane. Now, onto the jungle. First up in the jungle, we have a build for Shaco. Now, this build is not exactly new, but what is new is the jungle route that he will start with. Everything about the runes and build are exactly the same, except you'll want to start a talisman instead of a machete. Once you get into the game, time your jack-in-the-boxes around your raptor camp and set up 2 boxes there. Also, make sure to set one up in your red buff because you'll need it later. As soon as the camps spawn, have your bottom lane start leashing the red buff while you smite the raptor camp to clear it within a few seconds. Then you'll finish the red buff within a few seconds and also level up your Q to jump over to the golems. Once you're there, you'll want to place a jack-in-the-box to clear the camp extremely fast. Sometimes players opt to place 3 boxes at raptors, none at the red buff, and then 1 on the golems instead, but it's up to you. If you've done this successfully and correctly, then you'll be level 3 within the first half minute of the laning phase, and literally every single player except for the enemy jungler should be level 1. After you finish clearing, gank the enemy bot lane. They'll be dropping bricks once they realize that they're being ganked by a level 3 jungler when they're not even past level 1. Next up for jungle, we have Echo. Echo jungle has been rising in popularity ever since his massive buffs a few patches ago, and now there's one build which strays away from the traditional Dark Harvest, Conqueror, or Electrocute. Predator Echo is a new big thing in Korea right now, and it works like a charm. For runes, you'll take Predator, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Ravenous Hunter, followed by Sorcery Secondary for Absolute Focus and Water Walking. The biggest issue with Echo jungle beforehand was having to predict your W properly, and this takes a lot of time to master, to be honest. But with Predator Echo, as soon as the enemy sees that mark over their head, their natural response will be to move in a straight line back towards their tower, making it a lot easier to gank them and land that all-important W. Lastly, for jungle, we have a non-traditional jungler who is Lucian. On the EU West server right now, a bunch of Korean pros are boot camping for world championships, and Damwon's sub-jungler Punch has been playing a lot of Lucian jungle. At first glance, this might seem pretty troll, but actually it's kinda good. Much like the majority of viewers watching this video right now, I was a bit skeptical of the viability of Lucian jungle, but after trying it myself, I can definitely see why the Korean junglers are playing it in solo queue. For runes, you'll take PTA, Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, then Inspiration Secondary for Boots and Cosmic Insight. For items, you rush Warrior Enchantment into Berserker Greaves, then Bork, Essence Reaver, IE, and a Last Whisper. I was definitely surprised at the strength of this build, and I'm sure you will be too, so give it a try. Here's a quick recap of all the builds that we mentioned for jungle. Now, let's run down mid. First up, we have the Showmaker special, and let's talk about Spellbook Zoe. Despite her pretty low presence in solo queue recently, Zoe is a strong champion, and she's a common favorite amongst the Koreans. However, one of her main weaknesses right now is her lack of defensive abilities, which makes it so easy to beat her as aggressive champions, like Syndra or Akali, or if you're a champion like Lux who can easily land her CC after Zoe jumps back from her portal. However, those darn Koreans have been innovating a new build for her, which involves switching your summoner spells to a more defensive route during your weak points in the game. For runes, you'll take Summoner Spellbook with Boots, Biscuits, and Time Warp Tonic, then Sorcery Secondary for Mana Flow Band and Scorch. For items, it'll be the same, with Ludens into Mercs, Morello, Deathcap, Void Staff, and Banshees. The second build for mid is Syndra. Now, Syndra's been one of the strongest champions in the game for quite some time due to some damage buff that she's received. In fact, many players would say that her damage is overtuned at the moment, and often find themselves overkilling their targets, meaning they're doing more damage than they need to do. Because of this, the Koreans have realized that, hey, maybe we don't need a damage keystone and instead can opt for a utility one. Glacial Augment is the new flavor of the month on the Korean server, and it's actually pretty good. Since your damage numbers are so overtuned, all you really need to do is land your E, then face roll your keyboard to make sure that you one-shot them. Having that augment slow makes it really easy to land other key abilities in her kit, and even challenger players can't do much against it. For the runes, grab Augment into Perfect Timing, Biscuits, and Insight, and then you'll you'll take Domination Secondary for Ingenious Hunter and Cheap Shot, and then for items, you'll take the standard GLP pages with GLP, Sork Shoes, Twin Shadows, Death Cap, Void Staff, and Amarello, which you very commonly see if you take Glacial Augment. Here's a quick recap for all of the builds that we mentioned for mid lane. Now onto the bot lane. The first Korean AD carry build that we'll mention is for a non-traditional marksman who is Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger received a small buff not too long ago, and his presence during the World Championships has increased by a lot. Quite a few professional and high-elo Korean ADCs have been spamming Heimerdinger because they don't want to fall behind on the meta. For runes, you'll take Comet, Mana Flow Ban, Absolute Focus, and Scorch, then you'll take Domination Secondary for Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. For items, it's Ludens, Rylai's, Sork Shoes, Zanya's, Liandry's, and a Death Cap. This bot lane pick is super oppressive if played correctly, and our analysts highly recommend you start learning him. He works pretty well with most supports due to their layered CC, and he can often secure kills pretty easily with his ultimate combined with his W or his Q. Next up, we have a build for Jinx. Now this Jinx build only has one twist in it, which is opting to go Presence of Mind instead of Triumph with the standard rune page. You'll want Lethal Tempo, then Presence of Mind, Bloodline and Coup de Grace, then Boots and Biscuits. The playstyle of this build is exactly the same as the standard Jinx one, except now you get to spam your ultimate a lot more during the game. Lastly, for the ADCs, we have Varus. Varus received a mana and base AD buff this patch, which has caused his Poke Varus build to start rising in popularity. For runes, you'll want Comet, Mana Flow Ban, Transcendence, and Scorch, followed by Inspiration Secondary for Boots and Biscuits. For items, take Ghostblade, Duskblade, then Edge of Night, into Aeonian Boots, Last Whisper, and a GA. This becomes one of the easiest builds in the game to execute because all you really have to do is land your Q, and it's pretty oppressive during the laning phase. If you ever get autofilled or want to add another powerful yet easy champion to your ADC pool, then Varus will be the perfect fit. And here's a recap of all of the builds that we mentioned for bot lane. And finally, on to support. We only have one Korean build for supports this patch, and it'll be for Ivern. Ivern got a mini rework in 920, and now it changed his auto attacks from melee to ranged. Due to these changes, a lot of Korean support mains have been playing him down in the bot lane. I mean, think about it. His entire kit and item paths were already geared towards a supportive role, and now that he's a ranged champion, he can be a lot more effective down bot lane. You want to start with the Spell Thieves and get in as many ranged auto attacks as you can with the enemy duo, and then get in Ardent, Moby Boots, Athene's, Zeke's, and a Locket. This is actually my favorite build out of all of the ones that we mentioned because it's a lot of fun making bushes in the lane. And of course, if you need a recap on that Ivern build that we just mentioned, here it is. Anyway, that's going to be it for our OP Korean builds video. If you enjoyed this one, then please leave a like, comment, and sub to our channel to be notified of our next one. Make sure to go to ProGuides.com and check out our website for in-depth content and guides that were made by all of your favorite pro players. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the Rift.